Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you're watching this edition of Hypnosis Week Live. Yes, it's me again, Alex William Smith by birth, but known to many of you as Jonathan Royle, the so-called British bad boy of hypnosis. That's wearing thin, frankly, but, you know, that's what shows up in Google. Hey-o. Enough about me anyway. It's another edition, it's another week, and I've got another guest, somebody I'm excited to have on. I didn't actually meet, well, I did meet this gentleman very, 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 very briefly in terms of actually speaking to him. Crikey, probably close to 2 decades ago now. A ridiculous equity meeting in Loughborough. Which was a complete waste of time for anyone who's a member of British Actors Equity. However, I got to speak to him more last year at Blackpool Magic Convention in England, and I bought a copy of his book, Strange Way to Stage Hypnosis, The Honest Hypnotist Guide. And if you go on YouTube and you type in Jonathan Royle, Strange Way to Hypnosis, you will find my honest, unbiased review of that book, the short version of which is, if you've got any interest whatsoever in stage hypnosis, buy it. But there is a much longer review there for you to go and have a look at on YouTube. This is a gentleman who's also got a background in magic, comedy, and has travelled the world quite literally which is part of his story, so I'm not going to say too much more because he can tell you all. Please welcome to the show a gentleman who, by birth, is Christian P. Taylor, but is more commonly known as Doc Strange, comedy hypnotist. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Hello, how are you? All right?
Yeah, I'm fantastic, buddy. Look, for those people at home who may not have had the pleasure of coming across your videos on YouTube or already being connected to you on social media, can you explain to them a little bit about your journey from being born into this world to being where you are now as the guy who's traveled the world and got into stage hypnosis?
Okay, you're brave. You really want me to start from the beginning?
Well, pretty much. I want people to understand how you ended up getting into stage hypnosis.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to mention some names. Thoughts have changed since I had these ideas. Years ago, I watched a chap on television called The Amazing Kreskin.
Yeah.
And that sort of sparked my imagination. I must have been 7 years of age. Now, I was already a fan of David Nixon and then Paul Daniels, and I loved magic. The first time I ever did magic, the first time I really saw magic up close was when I was 5. And a magician, as far as I was concerned, he was a magician. He was a friend of my grandma. We were walking down the street, and my grandma introduced him as Uncle Hines. And Uncle Hines pulled 5 pence out of my ear hole, and then he made it disappear, and then it appeared under his foot, and I was blown away. And then he gave me the 5p or a shilling, as it was known then. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. I want to know how to do that. And so I can't honestly remember how I learned to do it when I was 5. This sounds really bizarre now saying this, but I used to spend a lot of time in the library. Now, I know for a fact that I was letting myself in at home when I was 7. I know this for sure. And I know that I was a latchkey kid because my mum was working, and I'd walk home from school and I'd let myself in, and I'd peel the potatoes and Uber up and do the things that my mum had asked me to do. Otherwise, I'd get in bother, right? And so I did these things because that was the age, you see. That was in the early 70s. And so somehow I must have got a book on it. Maybe it was at Christmas. I don't remember having a magic set, but I do remember having a book. Can I show you the book? I think
yeah, of course you can.
This is the book. This is the book that I got as a kid.
I used to have that as well as a kid, yeah.
And I still do a lot of the tricks that are in this book.
There is some really good stuff in there, and it's really well explained. With if you go on eBay and you can get a copy at the right price, just open it up so people can see. They're really good line drawings as well.
They're just absolutely wonderful. So here you go.
I mean, it's explained really, really well. It's easy to understand.
Which is Note in Lemon.
Right?
Yeah. unbelievable. Just absolutely fantastic book. It's got mentalism in it. It's got all sorts. And so this is the book that started me off. And I can't remember who bought it. It might have been my mum or grandma. I don't know. But this was by Will Dexter, and it just got me so excited in magic. And I got all interested in escapology as well because of the Houdini. And I remember being at school and getting kids to chain me to a lamppost or something, and then I'd escape. They'd think that I'd still be there, but I'd be undone and back in class before they were.
Excellent.
So I'd do stuff like that. And I did I've mentioned this before, but I'll say it here because it doesn't bother me. I did a magic competition. It was in the park, in Rowley Park in Blackburn. I was 7 years of age, and it was, we used to do these little talent competitions. It must have been summertime. It might have been around my birthday in June. And I did my little magic show age 7, and I didn't win. A little girl singing Good Ship Lollipop. Well, I was a bit cheesed off. And an adult actually said to me, the reason you didn't win is because you're not very good. And I tell this to kids, and I can't believe that an adult actually said that to me, but he did. And it really put me on the back foot. But on the same day, there was a gentleman who was doing a Radio 1 roadshow at the same time. Now, I can't remember if it was the same day, to be honest. I think it was, but, you know, the way your memory works is the more times you tell a story, the more you rewrite your memory. So I'm not 100% it was the same day. But I do know that I did some magic, and this particular famous gentleman said to me, "You're very good, son. If you keep practicing, you'll get better. You deserve to be on stage." All words to that effect. Okay? Yeah. But the feeling that I got from this guy was, you know, do what you love, right? And I tell that to kids all the time. I'm going to tell you, that famous guy was Jimmy Savile.
All right.
Yeah. But, you know, the message that I got from the guy was, you know, keep doing it. And I did. And I kept following my dreams. And even though I was brought up in Blackburn where, you know, everybody was either working down pit or, you know, in mill or whatever, that was the mentality. Oh, you don't want to be entertaining. What's the matter with you? You're fucking something. And so I never really got the encouragement to be an entertainer as such. So I just did my own thing. I was always the weird kid. I never felt like I belonged. I always felt like an oddball, you know. Mm-hmm. And so I'd spend a lot of my time in the library. And so I guess I must have been catching the bus into town. It was only a mile and a half away. And I think it cost tuppence on the bus anyway. Or if I didn't have the money, I'd walk into town and I'd spend all my time in the library. And I wanted to find books on magic. I wanted to find books on hypnotism once I'd seen Kreskin do his thing. One of the main reasons was I was a bit of a tea leaf when I was a kid. I was happy to tell lies. I was happy to nick things. And I thought it would be a great idea to learn how to hypnotize the old big in the local shop so she could give me fags. Right? Believe it or not, yeah, I was smoking at a ridiculously young age. And it's not something I'm proud of. But, you know, again, different times. I wish I'd never started. I stopped years ago. Best thing I ever did was stopping smoking. And it wasn't a hypnotist that helped me. It was Alan Coy's Easy Way to Stop Smoking.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so I would try and find books on hypnotism. And in the library, the only ones I could find were on medical hypnotism. I tried to find books on magic. And a lot of times all I found were books on stage craft, or theatre or acting, or I even got one about makeup once, and I remember reading this and learning how to do make myself look like Rasputin and all this kind of thing. I never followed that up. Don't fancy looking like him, but that's where I'd spend all my time. And one of the things I said in the book is that most of the people that I hung around with were a lot older than me, because by the time I was 11, I was on CB radio, and I'd spend all my time on the CB. And a lot of the people that I spoke to were a lot older. They were grown-ups. And by the time I was 12, I had this voice.
Can we just say for the viewers, if there's people who are younger than Chris and myself who don't know what CB radio is, if you search YouTube, you will find videos of people using them, and then you can see they do actually still exist, but they're not like they used to be. I mean, these are things that we now use mobile phones and stuff, but it's kind of like a mobile phone in the sense that truckers, but it was mobile. People in trucks could drive around and be on a CB, couldn't they?
Well, the reason they did it was because in the 70s you had all the problems with the fuel. You couldn't get fuel in America. There was something going on, whether it's to do with the war or whatever, I don't know. But all I know is that the truckers used to talk to each other and they'd tell each other about the police parked down the road with a speed camera. That was a Smoky Bear with a Kodak, right? You'd have that, or they'd be telling you about such a gas station who's got fuel, and the radios ended up coming over to England, and we ended up using them. And I think something like 1976, Blue Peter did a program about it, talking about CB radio, and then I ended up getting one. And my name, my handle, my CB handle was Doc Strange, and so. Doc Strange was because I was a fan of the character Doctor Strange in the Marvel magazine, in the Marvel comic. I am a Marvel fanboy. I love Spider-Man and Iron Man. But Doctor Strange, the reason I chose Doctor Strange is because there was already an Iron Man and a Spider-Man who were using those. And I like Doc Strange anyway, and I used to call myself Doc. So that's where I got the name from. And then by the time I read enough books on hypnosis and everything, and I've tried it, and this is what I think a lot of people struggle with, is I was reading between the lines. When I was trying to discover how hypnosis worked, and I remember trying to hypnotize my grandmother, my little nana, and she said it worked, and I didn't know if it did work, and then she didn't know if it worked, and then I thought it did work, and we just didn't know. And I remembered this. I always said as a kid, I will never forget what it's like to be a kid. I'll never forget what it's like to be 5 and 6. And the reason was because we had a miserable old bugger living next to my grandma who used to complain all the time. He used to come out and he'd tell all the kids to clear off. Tell all the kids to clear off. And he was right. He was called Percy. We used to call him Percy Thrower. And he was a right misery. He didn't like kids at all. And I said, I'll never forget what it's like to be a kid, and I'll never be like that with kids, and I haven't. And that's why I enjoy being with kids. I like having a good laugh with them, because you learn so much from little kids on how to be funny. If you watch kids are hilarious. They're funnier than me. They're just so funny. Anyway, my point is.
Let me pick up on that point. I think that's very true. And for the viewers, because, I'm sure my hypnotherapy type people will be watching this out of loyalty, watching each week. But it's probably going to be more interest to the people who are in the magic and comedy hypnosis side of stuff. And I think one of the things that people find hard in stage hypnosis, and I will be asking you this in a minute, is how to come up with new routines so that they're not nicking them. And I noticed, but it's interesting that I noticed that earlier last year, Ken Webster, who's got the longest running resident hypnosis show in England, brought up that his daughter Georgie, who I forget how old she is, she's younger than my daughter, so she's maybe 6, 7. I might have the age wrong, I apologise there. But anyway, that he'd started writing his show for that season, and that she'd suddenly come out and said something like, I've not seen him do the routine, but I assume she must have said something like, well, isn't it always funny when you see people in the park picking up the dog's poo with bags or something, collecting poo? And ultimately, he said, she basically gave me the idea for this poo collecting sketch. I've not seen him do it live, and you definitely shouldn't nick it, because that's just wrong. And apparently he went and did it to experiment to see if it'd work. And I saw him then butt up on social media after he'd done it the first night of season opening and said, bloody hell, I've been writing sketches for years, and my daughter comes up with an idea and it gets more laughs than the other things. And I think that illustrates what you were saying before. Sometimes kids just have a purity and imagination and an outlook on things that we've lost as adults. Yeah, well, you haven't, but
I keep it simple, and I do. I try to keep it simple. I mean, some of the stories, some of the things that you'll get from your kids, stuff that they do is just bizarre. That you wouldn't think of doing yourself at all. You know, what I'm doing now is I'm writing some stuff for comedy where it's all based on past life experiences, including the things that my daughters did. I'm putting them into some stand-up. That's what I'm going to next, is to do some stand-up again. I tried it in 2000, and I don't think I had the gravitas then to do the stand-up. But now I'm very well centered and grounded, and I know exactly what it is I like to do, and how I like to work with an audience.
Is that to integrate with the stage hypnosis, or as a standalone go out and?
Sorry, I keep messing with this. As you can see, if I just lower.
You've gone beautiful suddenly then.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to
clarity.
Just bear with me while I try and sort that out. I'm just trying to give it a bit of shade, so I'm going to disappear for a sec. Hang on. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's cool.
A bit better. It's too washed out otherwise. Isn't it? If I turn that off, how does that look? You see, it's too dark now, isn't it?
No, it was better as it was. Trust me, the recording at the end always ends up looking better than it looks to us. It's clearer.
Yeah. So what I try to do is keep it real and keep it based on my own experiences. And what I found is, in all honesty, with hypnotism, I do pretty much the same stuff. What I found is somebody said to me, "Don't find a new act, find a new audience." I think Faye Pesto said to me 2 years ago, and I was saying, I feel like things are getting a little bit stale, and it's not that. It's not that at all. What I found is now different audiences expect different things, and so you play to your audience and you guide them into the kind of thing that you want. Like personally, I don't like people taking the clothes off or doing anything sexual, but I don't mind effing and blinding sometimes. And I've calmed that down. We're doing the kids entertaining for the last 9 or 10 years. I don't need to swear on stage anymore. But for a long time, it was default for me. Effing and blinding was what I was used to from Blackburn. That's how it was. That's how everybody talked on the estate I lived on. Every other word was F this and F that, and you go back up there and it's the same. Well, that was me on stage, and in time, what I've done is I've learned to not do that and to calm myself down and be a lot happier, be a lot friendlier. I used to be really in your face, and I don't like being like that anymore, because you do that with kids and you cry. Yeah, they don't like, it's like effing and blinding, and they're not a big fan. So I've learned to calm it down, be happier, be friendlier, smile more. And this is my smile. It looks terrible. It looks like I'm trying to squeeze out a wet fart, to be honest. But the thing is, I found myself doing the hypnotism by about 1989. I was working for Club 1830, and I was in Corfu, and I was DJing for them, and I experimented on different people. I'd say, "Oh yeah, I like to do hypnosis," but I never said what I'm about to reveal now. I used to say, "Yeah, I like to do hypnosis," or "I like to hypnotize people," or "Do you want to be hypnotized?" And I never said, "I am a hypnotist." I never said it. I never said, "I am a hypnotist. Would you like to be hypnotized?" I used to say, "Would you like to be hypnotized?" And people would say, "Oh, are you a hypnotist?" And you go, "No, not really. But do you want to be?" Right? And so what I was doing, I was setting myself up for failure. And it took me a long time to realize that, because I'd dip into it, I'd try, it didn't work, or it did work, or whatever. I never did it. I never did it like street hypnosis. Or it was always during a show. It was always in a safe environment, and I'd always get a few people up, and I'd tried, and it either worked or didn't. And it wasn't until 1992 that I went back to Ibiza. Sorry, what am I talking about? Corfu. Sorry, all these places I've worked.
Yeah.
I went back to Corfu, and after traveling through Europe and telling people I'm a hypnotist, and doing, one or two people, or just trying things out, I got to got to Corfu, and this chap got all excited when I told him I was a hypnotist, and he said, "Oh, can you do a show for us this weekend?" Well, he actually said tonight, and I said, "I can't. It was like a Thursday." And he said, "Well, what about Saturday night?" And I went, "Yeah, all right, I'll do a show for you." I said, "What are you going to pay me?" And he said, "Well, I'll give you free accommodation. I'll feed you. You get all your drink. And, if you want to, you can get some gigs elsewhere on the island." And I thought that was a good idea.
Yeah.
And so I got a crappy, mothy, musty tent that he'd give me. The food was good. I did get pissed every night. I got to meet some fit birds, which was good. All these tourists. It was the summer of love. I had a good time. And I went around the island, and I called myself all different names. Colin Corlon was one of the names. Peter Pancreas was another name that I called myself. Just stupid names. And then came up with Michael Moon, and I don't know why Michael Moon, but anyway, that was the name I went with, and came back to England in '92, and I ended up doing a gig in. What I'll say is the first gig that I did in Corfu went down a storm, and I sat everybody on bar stools, and nobody fell off.
All right.
Yeah, and they were tall bar stools. The thought never even crossed my mind that they could fall off. But and I did that, and I think I got 8 of them, and I hypnotized 6 of them, and nobody was more surprised than me. But I did all the wrong things. I had them eating onions, drinking eggs, raw egg. I did everything that I'd seen a guy called J. Louise, which was a really, really good hypnotist that I used to watch when I worked in northern Spain, in Catalonia, in a place called Castle Montgrí. And I didn't have a great time there. They weren't great employers, and they tried ripping me off. But the fact was, this hypnotist used to come every week, and he'd do a hypnotist show in 5 different languages. And I watched this guy, and I was like, I can do this. I can do what he's doing. I can do it. I can do this. And I spoke to him, and I said, I can do what you do. He says, of course you can. Of course you can do it. And I said, but I don't have an act. And he said, well, do what I do, just don't do it round here. And I was like, are you sure? And he went, yeah, just watch me do that, and then change it for your own stuff. And so I did, and I listened to this guy, because I taped him, and I listened to this a few times, and then I went out and I wrote a little list of all the things I was going to do, and I did it, and it worked. And then I started learning really quickly what I liked and what I didn't like. I didn't like making people uncomfortable. I didn't like making people feel awkward. I certainly didn't want to embarrass anybody or humiliate anybody, because things had happened and they'd come to me and say, why did you make me do that? I felt really awkward afterwards when people talk, and I'd feel really bad, because I'm a sensitive person, and I'd be like, yeah, that's not what I was aiming for, really, because I thought, if I asked them to do something that they didn't want to do, really, they wouldn't do it. And it turns out that all you do, you're removing people's inhibitions, and they will do the things you ask them to do. So I always frame it as, and nowadays, I mean, for the last 26 years, I've been saying to people, look, I'm not going to ask you to do anything against your morals or your ethics. All I'm going to ask you to do are things that are silly and fun, and that you'll enjoy doing. But if I ask you to do anything that you don't want to do, don't do it. That's it. Just don't do it. I'm not going to make you do it. If I ask you once and you don't do it, and I ask you twice and you still don't do it, I won't ask you a third time, right? Because it's obvious against whatever's in you. And I'm not interested in making people uncomfortable. And once they understand that, then they're free to do whatever they want, as long as they don't hurt themselves or anybody else. So,
what would you say then to the people who perhaps would say that by saying that, you are reducing your power, so to speak, the perception, the perceived authority figure thing, because the public do tend to think that, you know, the hypnotist can make me do anything, which to a degree is true if the context is right and it's framed right. I'm not saying you should do that, but by telling them you definitely won't and can't, what would you say about it? You know, the balance between...
honest hypnotist, no bullshit. So, you know, when I first started, it was all about being serious, dressing like a hypnotist, looking smart, pointy beard. I could never grow a beard. I tried going for the pointy beard look, and it just didn't work for me. It just looked like fluff. You know, never a big fan of the pocket watch or the dodgy stares, you know, that everybody has in the... They always have to look like a hypnotist. And I soon realised it just makes you look like a twat, to be honest. It's completely unnecessary. Because what I say to people is, look, I'm a hypnotist. I will hypnotise you if you allow me. If you let me hypnotise you, you're going to do things that you didn't think of doing that are fun and ridiculous, but in no way are they dangerous. And you're not going to do anything against your morals or your ethics. You're not going to hurt yourself or anybody else. At any point, you can wake up if you wanted to, but if you do, you'll spoil the experience for yourself. I don't care if you sit there and do nothing, but if you do, that makes it a boring show. You're not just here for relaxation. But from what I'm going to show you, what you're going to learn, you can take that away with you and you can practice that at home if you just want relaxation. Right? But otherwise, we're here to entertain everybody and have a laugh. So listen to what I tell you, do as you're told, enjoy the experience, and at the end, people are going to be buying you drinks and going, wow, you were fantastic. Now, you can read into it however you want, right? You're going to get hypnotists who say, oh, no, you should have been more, you shouldn't have given this, you shouldn't have told them that, whatever. And I go, well, no, this is what works for me. This is my thing. This is how I do it, you know. And some people might want to do the whole pocket watch thing, which I think is hilarious. I mean, you know, why not just go the old hog and have them all standing in salt water? You know, whatever it is that works for you, do that. But don't ask people to do things that you wouldn't do or ask your mother to do. That's my thing. That's why I had an issue with you back in the day, you know. And I was like, oh, my God, why is he doing that shit? What a dick, you know. But that's only because of what was reported. I've never seen you work. And you only listen to what other people say, and you go, oh, fucking hell, I'm not interested in meeting that guy. And then after a while, you hear other people say things about somebody, and you go, this is just hearsay. I've spoken to you a lot of times, and you're a decent fella. I like you, right? But other people have got all these issues. And I've just, have you seen him work? Have you seen what he does? Have you taken part in it? Have you done it yourself? Because if the answer is no to any of them, shut the fuck up.
The truth is that there were some things in the very, very early 90s that I did that are mentioned on my website, magicalguru.com, on the TV media page, that perceptively were, looking back on it now, bang out of order. The truth is, look, as I mentioned on the television media page of my website, I did not, it looked like I hypnotised a woman on TV, for example, to wake up thinking she'd just been raped. But I didn't. Because even then, at the age of 17, I would not have said that to someone who was hypnotised in case they could have experienced trauma or stuff. As I openly admit on my website now, paid an actress to play the part, knowing full well it would get media publicity at that time and catapult me into being known from no one knowing who the hell I was. Do I regret it? On the one hand, yes. But if I'm completely honest, mainly because it took so many years to die down. If I'm genuinely honest, I don't regret the fact that it positioned me and gave me a foot into the industry.
Yeah, you see, the thing is, this is what I admire about it, that, you know, you're not against publicising yourself. You're happy to self-publicise, and I'm terrible. I mean, you've mentioned your own website like 3 or 4 times. I haven't even mentioned mine once.
Well, yours, the link, people, as they watch this, mine won't be there, but Chris's website link will be below the video to click on to take you straight there.
Thank you very much. And that's what I say. You know, I'm learning. I've only just started saying yes to things, right? For too long, I'd say no. I mean, I've just had a phone call from Judge Rinder, and I said, "No, you're all right, thanks. I'm from Britain Got Talent. I'm not interested."
Judge Rinder really want a hypnotist on. They rang me twice, end of last year and start of this year.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to reveal what the story was in case they ever decide to go ahead with it, but it was near enough going to happen, and then it didn't. But I think they probably guessed that it was a bit, may have stretched the boundaries of what's believable a bit far.
If you're going to be on a program like that, you've got to make it interesting for them. And I'm not interested in bullshit. You know, that's not what I do. And the reason is because it's not that I've got a bad memory. I've got a good memory, but because I ramble on and I talk without really thinking, I found that if I lie, I can't remember what I've said, and I will contradict myself. So I learned what I was saying before is I learned early on that thieving was bad, that lying was bad, because I think I might have gone into the shop that I mentioned earlier and nicked some sweets or something and got caught, excuse me, and got a good telling off by the police when I was about 9 or 10. Right, I might have been a bit older, I don't know, but I do know that I made mistakes as a little kid, and it was nothing to do with my mum because she was brilliant. You know, she brought me up to be honest and kind. You know, but the thing is, kids do stupid things, and I have stupid mates, and I listen to them, and I soon realised that if I listened to other people, you know that old thing. If your friends told you to jump off a bridge, would you? And I once upon a time I would have done, because I wanted friends, and then I realised actually I don't want friends like this. I'm happy doing my own thing. I'm a lone wolf. I do what I do, and people either like me or they don't. And if they don't like me, I don't care. It's not my problem. And if they do like me, great. But I'm not doing anything to be liked. I'm just being myself. And this is what I tell kids now. You know, feel your passion, be yourself. Do you? Because nobody else does you like you. Do you? And if you're trying to be like somebody else, or you're trying to copy somebody else, or do what somebody else's shit, you're just going to look foolish. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't, like I would watch comedians. My favourite comedian as a kid was Les Dawson, and I like Tommy Cooper, but I wasn't a massive fan of Tommy Cooper. But Les Dawson, Dave Allen, you know, people like that I really admired. I would do their gags. And it wasn't long before I realised I shouldn't be telling other people's jokes. You know, Mick Miller's another one, and he's a friend of yours. Mick was brilliant. Bernard Manning, you know, all fantastic comedians. But I soon realised that telling other people's jokes wasn't my thing. It wasn't doing me any favours. And I've kind of gone off just being quick-witted, you know, and having a laugh with people. And what I found now is more than anything is just connecting with people and having a laugh. Noticing what's going on around you, mentioning it, and taking the piss out of yourself a little bit. You know, not being. Oh, this is what I don't like about a lot of it. They're all real superior. They're all little men or women, right? Trying to grand. What am I saying? Make themselves bigger. I was going to say
grandiose. I think you may have been trying to say grandiose.
Yes, yeah, my brain went, but yeah, it's not a word that I use, but yeah, grandiose. So, thank you. So yeah, I see that, and I go, I don't want to be that, because it's only recently I've learned that I'm a little fella. You know, I've always felt quite big, and then I look at people and I realise I'm small compared to I'm 5'7", but most people are much bigger than me, and that's why I always get the biggest guy in the room and knock him out first. And I learnt that years ago. When I was at the Alt Park in Maghull, and I did a show. It's in the book. The story's in the book, A Strange Way to Stage Hypnosis. It's a nice little story. And at the end, this big scouser came up to me and he said, "Right, mate," he said, I think that's a load of rubbish what you did. I don't think it isn't real." And I just told him to sleep. And lucky for me, he did believe it, and he went out like a sack of shit, you know. And I did another 10 or 15 minutes with this guy and woke him up, and he continued his train of thought, and off he went. Well, I realised you tell people you're a hypnotist, and then you say, I'm going to hypnotize you if you want to be hypnotized. And if they go, yeah, I'd like to be hypnotized, then brilliant, hypnotize them. And if they say, no, I don't want to be hypnotized, then well, fine. It's like being a magician. You know, would you like to see a trick? No, I wouldn't. Right, no problem. Bye then. Do you want to see a trick? Yes, I would. Okay. And I think it's all down to a reasonable request. If you ask somebody something reasonable, you know, like, you know, have you got a cigarette, please? And somebody, you know, if you want a fag, and they'll give you one. But if they're a non-smoker, they're going to say, I don't smoke, mate. You can't get mad at them for not having a fag, right? So it's about having a reasonable request and understanding that not everybody thinks the same way. So if you want somebody to do something and they don't want to do it, fine. But if they do want to do it, use it and do a show. But don't do it in a pub with somebody who's had a few drinks with one person going, hey, look at me, I can hypnotize somebody. Oh, fuck off. Seriously, do a show. Do a show. If you're going to hypnotize somebody, do a show, right? If you can't do it with 10 people on stage, don't do it. But if you want to do one person, sit them down, relax them. It's not about showing off. It's not about showing off and going, oh, look at me, I can hypnotize people. Because when I do a stage show, it's not about me. It's about them. I want to get people up and say, look, I'm going to give you the opportunity to be really funny. You know, when you've heard a joke and it's made you laugh and you've gone, oh, I want to tell that joke. I'm going to tell that joke and make people laugh. If you tell it, you get it wrong. People look at you like you're a mental case, right? They don't laugh at you, right? When you get hypnotized, everything you do is funny, everything. So you're going to go on stage. You're not going to have any stage fright or anything like that. You're just going to enjoy yourself. People are going to laugh with you because you're funny. They're not laughing at you. They're going to laugh with you. You're going to make people happy, and you're going to go away, and you're like a superstar. Who doesn't want that?
Now, the thing is, I know, because I've seen footage of you, I know that you genuinely do approach things at the start of your show in that kind of manner. And I'm stressing that for the people who are watching at home. And I know that you impart this same advice in your book, which people can see over your shoulder.
Yeah. You can get it at christopstrange.com. I'll sign
Tremendous! You're learning. So I know that the reality is you do approach it that way. But I know there'll be a lot of stage hypnotists watching this, or people who've read other books in the past with a slightly more, you know, stuck-up approach.
Yeah.
That will be under the impression or come from the standpoint that, hang on, you're practically telling the audience there that this is not so much about hypnosis, it's about giving them an environment where they can feel safe to make a tit of themselves and not get blamed for it and not have to feel ashamed or embarrassed.
Yeah. I mean, I said to people, I did a corporate gig on Friday, which was amazing. It was one of the best shows I've done in a long time. And that was because they were sober, right? And I love doing corporate gigs because they're sober, they're interested, and they're going to learn something. And I incorporate what I do with what their company message is, right? And they love it. Well, I did this show, and one of the first things I said to them, I said, look, when you're a kid, you're happy to run around with your pants around your ankles, clucking like a chicken. If you want to do that, you're a kid, you're 5 years of age, you're not bothered. You think it's hilarious. And if somebody says you look stupid, you're just going to ignore them, or you're going to take it on board and you're going to be scarred for life, right? But as an adult, you're an adult, you're a child trapped in an adult's body, right? And you spend all your adult life trying to act like an adult, trying to act like a grown-up. And it gets too much. It's stressful. If you forget what it's like to be a kid and you don't let your hair down and you don't do childish things, then you're going to be stressed. And that's why people take drugs and why they drink alcohol and why they do that then. And I said to people, you don't have to get drunk to act like a twat. You can act like a twat without being drunk, and you can let your hair down. And it's important to do. It's important to be childish. Not all the time. Not when you're at work and you're a funeral director and you've got bodies. Okay. Not then, obviously. You know, there's a time and a place. But, you know, if you've got kids, play with your kids. You don't have to be the serious father figure. I'm sorry, children, but splashing in puddles will get you wet. Splash in the bloody puddle with them. right? Get mucky with your if you've got little kids, and that's what I learned being a dad, playing with my kids and just having fun with them and doing stupid things. I'd be like to my daughters, "What shall we do today?" And they'd come up with something ridiculous, and I'd go, "Well, all right then. It looks like we're doing that," and I'd enjoy myself. And rather than try to be the father figure, I'd be their friend. And I say to people all the time, just for a while, remember what it's like to be a kid. Nobody's judging. And if they do, fuck them. Who gives a shit what anyone else thinks? What matters is your opinion of yourself. That's all that matters. Your opinion means more than anything else. And just because somebody comes along and says, "Excuse me, short ass, why do you all wear blue? Why have you got blue Doc Martens on? What's the matter with you?" I don't care what you, who are you? I don't care what you think. This is what I decide. This is what I feel good in wearing. If I want to wear this, I'll wear this. It's got nothing to do with anybody else. But people are fragile. Everybody's so offended now. You can't say anything. And you can't say anything honestly or from a kind place sometimes because people are so ready to get offended and to get angry. And I said, look, I'm not here to offend anybody. I will say things that I hope will make you laugh. And if it doesn't make you laugh, I'll go, "Well, sorry, that's not there to offend you. All right? I'm trying to be funny." And we've got to a place now in the world where we can't say anything about anybody because whether you're gay or straight, black or white, what country you're from, whether you're transgender or whatever it is you're into, you can't say anything as a joke anymore. And so I think what we need to start doing is realizing that we have to take ourselves quite so seriously, right? I understand people have problems and I understand, there's all these things going on. And generally, you feel like you're all alone and you feel like everyone's against you. And I understand that. But if somebody's trying to make you laugh, give them the chance to make you laugh. And if they don't get offended by it because they're not trying to hurt your feelings. A comedian's job is to make people laugh. And unfortunately, it means walking a line. And this line is so narrow where you're either going to make people laugh or you're going to deeply offend them. And if you try to play it too safe, you're not funny, right?
Yeah.
So I think that what I say to people is, look, when you take part in my show, I'll give you an idea and it's up to you to run with it. And just remember, do what feels good for you. If it feels right, just do it. And sometimes I get people up, they're absolutely hilarious. And I never even thought of that. They'll do things that I never thought of. And then sometimes they're boring bastards. But what can you do?
Picking up on something you just said, you're right. I think in a lot of cases, if people get offended by a gag, that they're actually the one with the problem, or their reaction. You can choose to be offended or not. And I don't know why, but it entered my head. I know that Bernard Manning, and if you're in a country where you don't know the names we're mentioning, just Google or YouTube and you'll see who these people are. Bernard Manning, when he was alive, was renowned for doing what people these days would say is racist, sexist, ageist, every type of this material.
Yeah.
And yes, he did. But I've seen him perform live, and there were black people in the audience. And bearing in mind, they knew who they were going to see. They paid money for a ticket. There were black people in the audience. There were gays in the audience.
The own club, the Embassy Club.
Yeah.
So I mentioned that he had his own club that people would go to see him from every walk of life.
Right? The people who should be offended by the gags were regularly going to the shows, and he would be, some these days would say, being racist to them. He'd say to a black man, "Oh, do us a favour, there's a bulb gone there, can you just smile so we can see you?" And whether you think that's racist or not, on this day and age it would be seen as such. Yeah. That gentleman had paid to go and see Bernard Manning, knowing full well the kind of thing Bernard Manning did, and would sit there and laugh.
Yeah.
He had the choice. And this day and age, people go on about political correctness, but let's be honest, in England we have a comedian called Jimmy Carr. Now, he may not necessarily do what's termed as racist material, but Christ, things like, I've just bought myself a rape alarm so I don't forget when to go and rape somebody. I mean, he tells it much better than that at the time, but bloody hell, it's like you hear the audience go, should we be allowed to laugh at this? And then one person does and they feel they've got permission to laugh.
Yeah.
I think society's the problem and the way people react.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to see, like, I'm not a fan of Jimmy Carr, but I'll tell you something. He's a really clever bloke. He wrote a brilliant book about comedy. I've forgotten the name of it now. No, it'll come to me. But yeah, look up the Jimmy Carr book on comedy, and it's basically a dissertation on what makes people laugh. You know, what's funny.
Oh, right, I've not read that.
Yeah, it's a really good book. It's got you know, when we're coming from apes to man, it's like the evolution of comedy kind of thing. You'll have to look it up. It's a really good book. And even though I was never a fan of his as such, I read that, and he's not stupid. He's a really clever fella, and he knows what he's doing. He's got his niche. He does that, and people go and see him for it. And I think you'd be mad to go and see Jimmy Carr and then get offended by what he said, because it's what he does. And I think offence is really personal, because you know, you could say something about somebody else and people find it funny, and then you say something else and then one person doesn't find it funny but the other people do, and you go, well, you know, it's sometimes that's the way it is. You know, you can't walk out because one gag I told offends you when you were laughing at everything else that should offend all the other people. So, you know, I think people just need to quieten down a little bit, because otherwise we'll have no comedy left.
Yeah, it's awkward. I mean, that's verbal. We've kind of talked verbal comedy there, but visually, as hypnotists, we sometimes use props. And one of the gags I've always used for years, you don't use many. Well, I'll give this example anyway. I mean, at the beginning, I always do the hot day, cold day. And the ice cream job, I give one of the people, you know, a rubber sex toy, dildo, to suck and lick, thinking it's an ice cream. Or at least I did do until just before Christmas. And it was then mentioned, and I'm not going to mention a person's name, because frankly I don't mention their name because they don't deserve the publicity. But they mentioned on a group to one of my students who's doing, yeah, well, Robert Temple, who's been doing theatre tours of England, mentioned to him, oh, I see you're going down the mucky hypno route, and when are you going to realise everything Alex ever told you is wrong? And it got into a debate between them, aside from the fact that he's doing it on site more theatre venues, Rob Temple, than the person who was slagging him off. And ironically, the person gave an example of, oh, you know, dildo, sex toys and all this. What happens these days when somebody gets a picture of, you know, on the mobile phone, sticks it on social media, and the boss sees it, and the person works in the school, say.
Good point.
Now, I'm going to agree with that person on that point. And I had a show in the Seychelles before Christmas, and it was literally 2 days after this discussion had been going on in that group.
Your tan doesn't wind up.
Yeah, and I didn't take the dildo. I used a banana instead, because my logic was that a photograph of somebody with a banana in the mouth that's clearly a banana is innocent.
Yeah,
you can't lose them the job.
Everyone's using their imagination, man. You know, and that's why I've never liked props. I'm the propless hypnotist, because props just make it too easy for the audience. I want the audience to use their imagination as well. You know, so even if we're going to do...
See, I love that. I love the idea of not having to take props. Easier to travel.
And that's why I started doing hypnotism. Because where was I? 1990, I went working on cruise ships with my dad, right? And I was on the Kililaro, the ship that got hijacked a couple of years before, and an American old chap got thrown overboard by these terrorists. Look it up. And my dad was on the ship at the time, and it was very harrowing. Got on that ship a few years later, like 2 or 3 years later, and I was in Genoa got on that ship, and it turned out that my husband's wife, who was South African, she wasn't allowed to stay in Italy because she didn't have a visa. People are soon going to understand the meaning of visas when they want to travel in the UK, by the way, when they want to travel around Europe. I'm not looking forward to that. So, yeah, freedom of movement. Anyway, it's important. So she got sent away. So I ended up being on this ship myself, but I think for the night. And then I got a phone call saying I had a flight. I think it might have been Durban. But anyway, wherever it was, and I got a flight myself, and when was this? 1980, so I was like 22, and I flew into South Africa, and I got on the ship, the Odysseus, and it was just the small ship compared to now. And I was on that with my dad, and we went all around the Seychelles and the Comores and Madagascar, Mozambique, all around South Africa, did all the ports around there down to Cape Town. I was DJing, and I had all records with me. I didn't have all my records, but I had a like a DJ bag with records in there, and I had all my magic props, I had all my claws and everything else, and there's a lot of stuff plugged about.
Mm-hmm.
When I left the ship, there's a magician. Oh my God, I've forgotten his name now. Anyway, it'll come to me. He got on the Oceanus with my dad. And I got back into England, and they were on the Oceanus, and the Oceanus sank. And that sank off the coast of South Africa, near Durban. And all the entertainment staff, they were the heroes. They saved everybody. What's going on here? Let me just check what's going on here. So they saved everything. They saved all the passengers, and it was the crew that buggered off. And anyway, point is, the magician that was on the ship lost all his equipment. He lost everything, and he wasn't insured. And we're talking illusions, magic, thousands and thousands of pounds worth of stuff.
Yeah.
And it completely. I mean, he got away with his life. He survived. But that was that for him. I mean, he had to start all over again, which is an absolute nightmare. And so what I said was, I want to do something that is popular, and the less that I have to carry, the better. Now, I wanted to be a comedian, but I didn't have the material. Like I said, I was doing other people's gags, and that's not fair. And I wanted to do comedy, so I was like, "What do I do? I don't know what to do." And then I went back to the hypnotism, and I thought, well, maybe I'll do that. And so that's where that came from. So in 1990. What was it? 1990 to 1991. So where am I? So 89, I was in Corfu, and then I came back to England, and I ended up being a kissogram. So I was doing the kissograms because a friend of mine went to Toronto, and he was a really buff lad, and he said, I've got loads of gigs lined up, but I've got this big show in Toronto that I'm doing. Do you fancy standing in for me? And I said, but I'm a puny little fella. I mean, I was fit. I was as fit as a butcher's dog at the time, but I've never been good looking. I'm not going to fool myself there. And, I was, what am I going to do? Well, it turns out I was the funniest strippogram for miles around because I was doing my cockles, mussels, who wants me crabs? That's where the white coat came from, right?
Right.
I had the white coat, and I was going round to pubs, and I had a basket, and I'd in there I'd have dildos, I'd have all kinds of things that I'd pull out, and so I'd do kissograms for people, and that gave me a lot of confidence because I went down to my thongs, I'd play my mouth organ, I'd be stood there on my own in front of 100, 200 people in a pub or whatever, on a Saturday night. Yeah, and I'd be stripping off, and I'd be I was a target. Do you know what I mean? So when I got this job in South Africa with my dad, I'd done like 7 months of being a strippogram, and then I got on the ship in November, and I was there. I was working, and I was in South Africa until the end of May, beginning of June. So about almost 6 months, right? And that's when I was kind of working on what I was going to do with the hypnotism. And then when I came back, where are we now? 91, yeah, so 91, I was back, and then I started traveling. I ended up traveling around Europe, and that's why I ended up in Corfu in 92. So I realized really early on that if I could just do a hypnotist show, I didn't need any prop. I used to turn up in resorts. Like I turned up in Ibiza once and said, I'll go around to different hotels and different pubs, and I'd say, I'm a hypnotist, do you want a show? And somebody would go, yeah, we'll do the show. How much do you want? And I'd go, I'll give us 50 quid or whatever. And I'd do a show, and I'd have some money in my pocket.
Well, I was actually going to ask you as a question, and you've kind of just, that's why I'm interrupting, you've just kind of started answering it. I was going to say, for anyone starting out who in stage hypnosis, obviously in England, you really do need to have a name for yourself, or be really good at marketing to start getting a foot in the door. In this, you are better off going to a holiday resort somewhere where you can be doing a number of shows a week. And really working your showing. But as you've done that in numerous places, how would you advise people that they go about getting shows if they land in a holiday resort somewhere?
If you're going to do that, so I'm just playing with my other camera here, so you'll have to excuse me.
No worries.
For my own use. Yeah, okay. So I think the first thing to do now is if you're going to get some work abroad, you can contact people, and you can go online and you can get in touch with people, get in touch with the website or whatever resort you're going to go to, and say, I do this. Do you fancy having me coming to do a show for you? Back in the day, I was walking around from place to place with my business cards or with flyers and saying, you know, I do a hypnotist show. Are you interested? When I first got to Tenerife, so I worked in Tenerife for 3 years, 93, 94, and 95. No, wait, that's wrong. 93, hang on. No, sorry, 94, 95, and 96. So I did.
I was going to say, you were there in 96 when I was, because I remember seeing you do a show.
Yeah, well, I did Blackpool. So I did Blackpool, I did the Foxhole at Blackpool in 93. And so I did the whole summer season there, and at some point I'd have more people in to see my show than some of the big named acts did on North Pier, apparently. So, you know, I used to fill it out on the Tuesdays and Thursdays at the Foxhole. They absolutely rammed. And they called me the singing hypnotist. I don't know why, because I don't sing. But they advertised it in the Blackpool Gazette as Michael Moon, the singing hypnotist. And it was only when I got to Tenerife in 94, and I went out there because I'd been living up in Cumbria with a girl, and that never worked out. And I didn't know what to do, and I'd got myself a room somewhere, a bed sit, and I wasn't happy. And I thought, I'm just going to go somewhere. And I bumped into an old friend from Corfu, a guy called Andy Gapp. And he was a DJ, and he said, "Oh, I've just come back from Tenerife." He said, "I've had a fantastic time there. Tenerife's awesome." And I went, "Oh, right. Well, where do I go?" And he said, "Well, you go to Las Americas." He said, "There's a place called Sergeant Pepper's." He said, "If you go in there, go and see my mate. Forgotten his name. He'll sort you out." And so I went to Lund Poly, got a ticket, cheapest ticket I could find. I think it was 22 quid. And I flew to Tenerife, got to Las Americas. I arrived there about 2 o'clock in the morning, got off this bus that pulled up right outside Veronica's, which is a strip of bars and clubs, and it's just absolute mayhem. And I had my big rucksack on my back because I've been traveling, and so off I go, and I goes up into this place, and there's drunk girls on the floor and people in their own puke, and it's just mad, right? Fighting and people shagging, and it's all going on in this place, right? This is what it was like then. And I turned up in Sergeant Pepper's, and I said, "Is such a body?" And he said, "No, it's his night off tonight. What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I do this." He said, "We haven't got a DJ at the moment." He said, "Can you DJ?" And I said, "Yeah." Well, I didn't know any of the music they wanted me to play, and this is weird. They started giving me drinks. They said, "You can put your rucksack behind you." They didn't know me. I just turned, right? They had no idea who I was, right? I just had this one guy's name, which I've forgotten. And they said, "Just play some records, play some music for us." And I was playing music and I didn't really know his equipment. So I'm trying to work it out. I'm doing a bit of beat matching. And after about half an hour, he said, you're the worst fucking DJ we've ever heard. He said, come up there and help us behind the bar. And so I was there till like 5 o'clock in the morning. And when I helped him close down, he said, where are you staying? And I said, I haven't got anywhere. And the guy who ran the bar, I'm terrible, I can't remember his name. He said, come with me. He said, you can stop with us for tonight. He said, and I'll get you in touch with the other fella. And before you knew it, I stayed with this guy for 2 weeks, met all his friends, and I went to do a show at the Orlando in Tenerife in Tabiscus. And these guys said, we want you here every week. Can you do a show here every week? And I said, yeah, but I said, my ticket's run out. I said, I've got things to do back in England. So I flew back, sold my van, sold all my bits and pieces and everything that I just sold everything. And I came back to Tenerife like a month later. And they true to the word, they got me a place in the Orlando. I got my own apartment. And they said, you can have this. This is our apartment that the hotel gave us, but it's crap. It was underneath, not underneath, it was next to the lift shaft. So I didn't get much sleep. And he said, but this is the room, you can have this. So I stayed there for about 2 months until I'd saved up enough money to get an apartment. And yeah, I ended up staying in Tenerife. But my point is when I got to Tenerife, for the first 3 weeks, I didn't really have any money. And I was just living off what I'd sold my van for. So I was just walking around from place to place saying, I do this, are you interested? And sometimes they'd say, yeah, if you give us a poster. And so I did every bar you can think of in Las Americas, and Los Cristianos, and La Galeta, and Costa del Silencio. And I did all over, and I covered that whole area. And I did it for 3 years. I did stuff for Club 1830 and for Brewers Group, which was a really good one. I met loads of people, everybody from Chubby Brown to, what's that guy called? That comedian said, the Germans, they bombed our chip shop. Stan Boardman.
Stan Boardman, yeah.
I was a big fan of his. And they'd all go down because apparently the guy that owned the Brewers Group was the original Phantom Flam flinger, apparently. Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was really into it. Then I met a girl and I ended up moving back to England in 96. And to be honest, I should have stayed in Tenerife. I should have stayed there because I loved it. I loved all the bars and all the people and everything. But, you know, sometimes it's just time to move on. And I went to Newport and I stayed in Newport for a while in South Wales. And then I just thought, sod this, I want to go to Australia. Went to Australia. This is another story. I'm going to keep it short. I damaged my knee. So I was only there for 3 months and I came back and I ended up back in Newport again. But I did a few shows when I was in Australia. And then, yeah, just trying to find myself. And then I went started clubbing again. Went to Glastonbury, met my wife. And if it wasn't for my wife, Jane, I'd probably killed myself with a drug overdose by now. You know, because I was a mad raver. And yeah, I just enjoyed being with her, and I moved into Bristol, and then I became a dad, and that's when I started calming down and being a new me. You know, I ran a business called Glow Gadgets Unlimited. Ran that for 10 years, and then the credit crunch happened, and a lot of my suppliers went out of business. A lot of people wouldn't give me credit anymore because it was too risky, and so I closed that down, and I didn't know what to do. And my daughters, who were 7 and 8, and said, "Why don't you entertain children, Dad?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I'm pretty much a blue comedian. I've been working with strippers for years, you know, just doing blue comedy. Nobody's going to want me as a children's entertainer." But I did their birthday party, then I did a friend's birthday party. Before you knew it, I was entertaining all these kids, and I was like, "This is fantastic. They're not drunk. They're not threatening me, right? I'm not driving home at 3 o'clock in the morning, absolutely bog-eyed, after doing a show that was, you know, so because everybody was drunk. I'm entertaining kids in the day, and I can be as silly as I want to be, and they think I'm hilarious. This is fantastic." And so I've been doing that as Chris PT, and you can find me at comedymagicshow.co.uk. I've been doing that for nearly 10 years now. And now I've reached...
And you've won awards, haven't you?
won awards, Children's Entertainer of the Year. I won Bristol Magic Society Children's Entertainer of the Year. Yeah, I mean, kids love me. I love kids. It's fantastic. I mean, I know people said to me, "How can you entertain kids when you F and blind the way you do?" So I don't do that in front of kids. I don't hypnotize them either. You know, I can tell the difference between kids and adults.
I've got to ask you this because that's brilliant. You know, obviously in England here, we're screwed. You've got to be 18 or above to be a hypnotic subject for hypnosis shows or have parental permission, allegedly. Now, all right, in some of the holiday resorts, that does get bent. I've seen it get bent. But we certainly don't have what they have in America. What do you make of this? Bloody, they're going to schools, they're hypnotising kids.
I don't hypnotise kids. I did when I was in Corfu. Like I said, I was doing shows all over, and I hypnotised an 8-year-old kid. You know, they were kids would get up, and I didn't know the rules, I didn't know the regulations, and like I said, I had to figure things out. And I soon figured out that I don't want to hypnotise kids because they were boring. When you hypnotise kids, they didn't do much, right? Kids are funnier as kids, right? But the whole idea of hypnotising adults is so that adults become kids or they act like kids, right?
Yes.
So I think, you know, you've got to be over a certain age because it's about responsibility. And hypnotising children just seems weird to me because, yeah, a 16-year-old might look very attractive and grown up and have the body of a man or a woman, but they haven't got the mind of a man or a woman. And so I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair to start messing with them because even though I don't believe that hypnosis, and I hate the word hypnosis because I don't think hypnotism is real at all. I think that everything is it's what people choose it to be. And that's why it's important to frame the hypnosis, and I hate it when people do air quotes as well, right, for that. I think what people need to do is frame it and say, look, I'm your conductor and you're my orchestra, right? It's up to you how you play your instrument and you are the instrument. You know, if I was a trainer, right? A fitness trainer.
I'm sorry, you set me off. It is sort of like if you look at YouTube this morning, people, and search Holly Willoughby and Philip Schofield on the couch, quite often she'll say something and it cracks him up or vice versa. I'm sorry, but Christian just gone on about. Oh dear, sorry.
Right, so if I'm a personal trainer and you want to get fit, and you say I want to get fit, and I tell you what to do, and you do it, you'll get fit. But if you ignore me, if I say, all right, you need to do 10 press-ups to start with, and you don't actually do that, then nothing's going to happen. So if what I say to you goes in one ear and out the other, you're not going to get hypnotized or you're not going to get fit, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why I do this framework. You're not going to do anything to hurt yourself or anyone else. You're not going to do anything against your morals or your ethics. You're going to follow my instructions. When I say stop, you do as you're told. And when I say at the end of the show, I'll count from 5 down to 1 and I'll say Constantinople, and that's the end of the show. And I know I'm not going to say those words until the end of the show. So you'll know then that the show's over. So you can stop playing about, right? Now, people say to me at the end, you'll get people who'll say, oh, I felt amazing. I put a video online of this guy from Friday. He asked me to take it off. Well, I asked him, I said, can you do a video saying how you felt? Because he was really pumped about it. And then he said, oh, actually, I don't like that being online. Mm. I said, well, no problem. I'm going to take it off again. But this guy was like, oh, my God, it was amazing. I knew what I was doing. I could have stopped it in time, but I didn't want to. I just felt great. And now I feel wonderful and energized. I feel fantastic. And I said, what that is you feel relieved. You feel like you've done something that you wouldn't normally do. And you feel the pressure's been taken off you. And, you know, whether you have a massage, a hot bath, whether you jerk yourself off, whether you have a joint, whether you have a beer, whatever it is that you do to relax, do that. And so when people are hypnotized or when they allow themselves to become hypnotized, or when, as I say, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, when they hypnotize themselves or they put themselves, and I don't believe there's such a thing as a trance, but when they put themselves in a trance or whatever it is they do, I always say it's different for everybody, I ask people to close their eyes because I don't want you looking at what they're doing. Not because you're asleep, because you're not. You've just got your eyes closed. I don't want you doing what somebody else is doing. I want you to do you. Do your thing. Doesn't matter what they're doing because they're doing their own thing. They're doing their reality or not, right? And I just want you to enjoy the experience and just go with the flow. Don't expect some weird drug trip. It's not LSD you're taking. You know, if you're thinking you're going to get visuals and everything, you're going to be disappointed. But if you just go into yourself, use your imagination and stop relying on other things like your vision and sound and all that. Just go within yourself and enjoy that. Then you'll learn something really powerful that you can use at any time. Anytime you feel stressed or unhappy or whatever, you can just take a few minutes, put yourself on a beach. I like doing the whole beach thing. You know, imagine the sun beating down and warming your body, and imagine it's nice and bright. I sit under a bright light sometimes in winter because sometimes I want to feel like I'm in the sunshine, you know, and I'll close my eyes and I'll just think, yeah, I'm on the beach now, and I'll do that, and it calms me down, and then you open your eyes and go, oh, fuck, it's raining. But, you know, use your imagination, and if it's entertaining, you can call it hypnosis. I mean, you know, it's a hypnotist show, but really, I saw years ago when I was doing the things for Club 1830, I saw Club 1830 reps getting people to do things that I would never ask them to do in a hypnotist show that were far more outrageous. And all they were doing was saying, do that. If you do that, you might win a beer. Yeah. And they were doing more than any hypnotist show I've ever seen. So I know there's a lot of big name hypnotists making a lot of money. Right? I'm not going to say who or where, but you know what I'm talking about. And you know who you are. And you know you're falling on your feet. And a lot of people think, a lot of famous people, they've got this imposter syndrome, which is, oh, I don't know how I'm getting away with this. I don't know how like if you're a famous actor, you speak to any famous actor and they'll go, I can't believe people still want me on screen.
Yeah.
Because I'm just messing about. I'm just enjoying myself. But apparently people like it and they pay me millions, so I'll stop with it. Well, if you're a hypnotist and you're asking people to do things and they're doing it, and really all we're doing is holding a microphone and saying, do this, do that, and people are doing it, and they're having a laugh, and people in the audience are having a laugh, and we're getting paid, fantastic, great, you know, I'll keep on doing that. But the thing is, it's about confidence, it's about gravitas. If you're not confident, you don't tell people, I'm a hypnotist, and I'm going to show you how to have a fantastic time. You're going to love it. They're going to have a laugh. You're not going to be embarrassed. I'm going to get paid. We'll win. Yay. You know, so...
Some people watching might think that Chris has oversimplified things. Let me tell you, from my personal point of view, it is as simple as that. Yeah. There are obviously psychological ploys you can use. And in that regard, that's another good reason to get Chris's book. Which is over his shoulder. Grab the book. Show it us closer on screen.
I've changed the design, so you can get it on Amazon.
All right. So it might have a different cover design, but it's still called the same name.
Yeah, it's the same name, and it's a strange way to stage hypnosis. The Honest Hypnotist Guide.
Get the book, read it. There's loads of psychological tips in there that will help. It is as simple as what Chris has said, but there are tips that make it even easier and more. And the book's full of them. And then also watch YouTube. There's loads of videos Chris has got up there. And when you watch his videos, having read the book, you'll see that what he's put in the book is genuinely what he does with people. Hence, the honest, I can't even speak now, Honest Hypnotists. Bloody tripping up. Honest Hypnotist Guide. I thoroughly recommend it, as you can see on the YouTube video.
Stopstrange.com.
Yeah. Before we go, the final question, because we have gone slightly over the hour, but this is the question I ask everybody that I've interviewed. Obviously, with you, it's in the context of stage hypnosis. Yeah. Somebody came to you who'd never done a show before in their entire life. They may have already read your book, okay? Yeah. But what would your top 3 tips be to them in terms of getting into stage hypnosis?
Top 3 tips. Well, I think I've said my first tip is be kind. I think kindness is magic. If you're kind to yourself and you're kind to others, I think that makes the world a better place in the first place. And by being kind, what I mean is don't do things in the hope of getting something out of somebody. You know, if you see somebody that needs help, and you can help them, help them. You know, but kindness is simple. Whether it's using good manners, which I always say my please and thank yous, always. I think that's important because it makes people feel better about themselves. If you're in a shop, if you go to a chip shop, you want to get some chips, or you go to McDonald's and you make an order, I always say, please could I have whatever, Big Mac and fries or fish and chips? Thank you very much. It's dead simple. The amount of times I hear people say, yeah, I want this, I want that, and I want that. Right? It's so impolite because you're talking to another human being, and the least you can do when you're asking them to do something, I know you're going to give them money, the least you can do is be polite. So please could I have, and then thank you very much. Now, on top of that, the simplest thing is to make somebody happy, or to make someone happy, is point something out about them that you like the look of. Now, they don't have to be, it's not like a chat up line. You're not trying to win somebody over. But if you see somebody and they've got interesting glasses on, right? Or somebody said to me the other day, wow, I really like your Blue Dot Martens. They're fantastic. Oh, thank you very much. Just point something out and say it and see what happens, right? It's not costing you anything. You know, you can, like I said, I don't smile too much because my smile looks weird, right? It looks like I'm squeezing out a fart. It's not a good smile. So I do this a lot. That's my photograph. And if I just keep my resting face is this, that's my resting face, and it looks angry. So if you've got a good smile, use it. If you can be nice to somebody just by saying, "Oh, I love your hair," or "Wow, that is a cool T-shirt," or "What fabulous earrings you've got," that's amazing. That will brighten up someone's day. You have got no idea. And I met a guy called Andy Cole, PhD, the other day, and they call him the Doctor of Happiness. And I was very impressed with it. Mm-hmm. And he said it's called the ripple effect, right? And I say pay it forward. If you can say something nice to somebody and be happy and upbeat, he says 16% of your happiness will move on to that person, right? And what happens is then the next people that they meet, 8% of your happiness will go on to them. And the people that they've met, 2% of your happiness will move on to them. All you've got to do is make an effort to just smile and be nice to somebody, to be kind to somebody. Just say something positive about them and it will move on. Just like when you're driving your car, if you let someone out, they'll let someone else out. They're paying it forward. So that's my first tip, is be kind, right?
Excellent. Yeah.
The second tip is if you're going to do a show, wherever it is, safety. I think safety is paramount when you're doing a hypnotist show. Look at your surroundings. Look around. Imagine you've got toddlers. You're going to remove all the sharp edges from the tables because you know they're going to walk into it, right? You're not going to leave cups of hot liquid that they're going to grab and spill over themselves. Well, when you do a hypnotist show, you don't want anything that could possibly hurt your subject. Not to say that they are stupid morons who are going to do things to hurt themselves, but accidents happen. And like I've said in the book, accidents have happened, and there's some really good stories in there that are wake-up calls. I haven't tried to make out like I'm an expert and that everything's gone right for me and that I've never had any problems. There are shows online that you can watch where I've died on my ass. There are stories in the book where I have died on my ass and where things have gone wrong and I've learned from it. If you are going to do a show, it's up to you to make sure that there are no chances of anything going wrong, like catalepsy. For fuck's sake, why are people still doing catalepsy? And that is making someone stiff as a board, putting their head on a chair, on one chair, putting their feet on another, and standing on them like a bridge. Stop fucking doing it. What is the matter with you? That is not even funny. They could have back problems, they could fall, they could hurt themselves. Don't do that because you're setting yourself up for failure. We live in a litigious society where people will sue you at the drop of a hat, so don't give them the chance. And you don't want to hurt anybody anyway. So safety is the second most important. Well, I say it's the first most important thing if you're going to do a show. Definitely safety. But that's my second tip. And I think my third tip is probably video everything. Video all your shows. Always take a video. I'm looking at getting one of these DJI Osmo Pockets because I did a show using my old video camera from about 10 years. I videoed the show on Friday because normally my daughter videos me using a DSLR 4K camera, right? And she wasn't around, and it only films in 15-minute segments. And so I didn't bring that. I brought the old camera. And the problem was the quality's crap. It's still high definition, but it looks terrible. And I've seen the quality of these little DJI Osmo Pockets, and it's got all the stabilization and everything else. And they're like 279 quid.
Oh.
Yeah, right, really good. And the quality's amazing.
What are they called again? I'm taking notes on this, let alone the people at home.
Yeah, DJI Osmo Pocket.
Osmo Pocket. I'll be looking at that after.
Yeah, so now that is like a little stick. It's like a bar of chocolate, like a Snickers bar.
Yeah.
And you can put it on a tripod, or if you want to, you can ask a member of the audience to hold it, and they don't need to be steady or anything. They can move it about because it's got a built-in gimbal that will make sure that it's completely steady. So they could be laughing.
Yeah.
Film everything, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I used to give cameras to audience members and say, can you just follow me around with that? And sometimes it worked and sometimes it was shaky. Well, you get one of these. I am going to get one for my next show. Look it up. The footage is amazing, and you can give it to anybody. If you're a magician and you're doing some close-up and you want some video of you working, and you say, can you just hold that for me and just keep it pointed this way, you'll get some fantastic footage, and you can pull video, so you can pull images from the video because it's 4K. So you can get the best reactions. So that's my third tip, is get a really decent camera and video everything you do, because then you can go on and watch. If you've had a good gig, you can see what you've done right. And if you've had a terrible gig, you can see what you did wrong. You can pull stills from the images. In fact, I'm going to go out and buy one today now.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You should be on commission. You really, yeah.
They've got him in Argos, £279. That's 50 quid off. DJI Osmo Pocket. They're on Amazon as well for the same money.
And of course, as well as learning from your good shows and learning from your bad and the ones in between, as well as being able to take images from them, which sounds good. So you get still images you can use in your advertising. Of course, you can back of the room sell copies of the video, can't you, to people who are there?
So, I mean, I've got friends that do that. Back in the day, they'd have these towers that would be recording all the DVDs. But if you want to, you can get a Vimeo professional account, and you can go on Vimeo. And what you can do then is you can sell basically passwords to people. So you can sell, if you want a copy of the show, it's a 5 quid, 10 quid. People will always give you a fiver.
Great minds think alike. That's the exact advice James Zellis gave in relation to Back of the Room, was to use Vimeo Pro.
Yeah. So Vimeo Pro is great. And if you just take a fiver off people, they're happy. But, you don't want to rip people off. But you can put it on YouTube, and YouTube's making the money. But if you put it on Vimeo Pro, then, you're not going to get adverts. You're going to get it in 4K. And then you're really going to get to use your Osmo properly. And so, video. So there you go. That's my 3 tips.
Excellent.
Be kind, be safe, and video the lot.
Thank you very much indeed, Chris. It has been an absolute pleasure. I cannot recommend buying The Honest Hypnotist Guide, A Strange Way to Hypnosis, any more than saying, if you type in Jonathan Royal Strange Way to Stage Hypnosis on YouTube, you'll see my full detailed review, but in one sentence, it's buy the book. As simple as that.
And
Check out, give everyone your website again.
So go to chrisdocstrange.com.
Which will be there below the video. If you're lazy, you can just click on the link. Excellent. He's prepared. Tremendous. So that will be it, but it'll be underneath the video. Thank you so much. And yeah, also check out YouTube and stuff. Thank you all for watching as always, and we'll see you next week on Hypnosis Week.
Bye-bye now.